Hello, and welcome back to the Court Sense Podcast, and welcome to the official start of the 2020-21 college basketball season. It's been a long time coming since last season's conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament were summarily canceled due to the coronavirus threat, and it's a long way to go to make this season a viable enterprise amid surging cases everywhere. While many of the country's 357 Division I programs get underway right now, 30 men's hoops games set for today have been postponed or outright canceled. It's going to be a delicate dance from here until March or beyond, no doubt about it. That includes the Big West and especially member Hawaii, which faces traveling challenges that no other team has. While 4 Big West men's teams are supposed to get in action today, neither the UH men nor the UH women's teams have posted a single non-conference game on their website, although there is still an expectation, or at least a hope, that they will play a handful of games prior to their Big West openers slated for December 27th. So, I thought, who better to analyze the situation than college hoops analyst Richie Schueler? He's a former college coach who got his start as a broadcaster with the Big West in 2013 and has seen his scope expanded to the entire Western U.S. on ESPN. He still knows the Big West inside and out, blending his knowledge of the game with an irreverent sense of humor that's added some much-needed entertainment to late-night college hoops broadcasts. I know we could use that right now more than ever. So, here we go. Check out Mike and Kara at No Ka'oi Automotive in Kalihi for all your vehicle repairs and maintenance needs. Quick turnaround, affordable, honest, and ASE certified. Call or text 842-6453 to schedule an appointment today. That's 842-MIKE or email nokaoiauto@gmail.com. The best part, mention the Court Sense podcast for a 10% discount. All right, today it is my pleasure and honor to be joined by Richie Schueler, who has been a longtime college basketball analyst and broadcaster for ESPN, as well as some other networks. He has just made himself a name in the college basketball analyst world, especially on the West Coast. He's done a lot of Big West, Mountain West, West Coast conference games. Richie Schueler, welcome to the Court Sense podcast.
Really appreciate you having me. I'm glad you're actually having a podcast. This is exciting to be a part of.
Hey man, it's my one and only chance to kind of catch up with guys like you that I would see around the Big West circuit for a number of years there, and especially right now with how zany and crazy this college basketball world has been since last March when everything went haywire because of COVID, and to this day is still kind of a mess, man. So, Richie, first up, I mean, what have you been up to since the aforementioned March, everything going sideways, and how's life been since?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say we miss you on the Big West circuit. I miss seeing your face covering Hawaii basketball. But it has been a crazy 8 months, has it not? We were supposed to have the conference tournament got canceled when I arrived at the arena back in March. And since that point in time, obviously we haven't had any games. So it's been a little bit crazy. So I've been spending my time trying to better myself, not so much as an analyst, but bettering myself from an X&O coaching standpoint. I run a company called PhD Hoops. You can check it out, phdhoops.com, and it serves both players and coaches. So we spend a lot of time in the off season doing right here, Zoom coaches roundtables, sometimes with 60, 70 coaches in a roundtable, picking each other's brains. We did that weekly for about 3 or 4 months, 4 months, I believe. But then on top of that, just been spending a lot of time, just got married a couple months ago. So
yes,
spending time with that and just trying to get my life organized before we're back to chaos this season.
And well, on the subject of your PhD hoops, I mean, you are a former head coach yourself. You kind of worked up your way up from the graduate assistant ranks at Austin P a couple of year or two out of your playing days at Evansville in the Missouri Valley Conference. You became a head coach at St. Andrews University in North Carolina. I think a good decade there, right? You were a coach and have since kind of transitioned into this broadcast realm. So how would you kind of describe that whole journey?
It's been awesome, actually. I've always been a guy since I was 10 years old that just loved the game of basketball. I never set my mind to being just a basketball coach. or set my mind to being a basketball analyst. I just wanted to be around the game. And so if you're not playing, the next best thing to do is to coach. If you're not coaching, the next best thing is to be an analyst. And I wish I could do all three at the same time, but I'm a little washed up from a basketball playing standpoint. And you can't coach and analyze at the same time. But it's been awesome, man. 10 years of coaching. You're right. Was a head coach for a few years, Division II. And the great thing about it is I was able to coach really at all three NCAA levels. So I got a real feel for what college sports is like, not just Division I that everybody sees on TV, but also small college ball, and they're in the middle as well. And I think that helped me really understand the game from a different perspective than just people who just watch it on TV and they think all college athletic programs are, in that limelight, because really just a small percentage of them actually are.
And I would add to your previous point about if you can't be a coach, be an analyst. Well, I would say if you can't be an analyst, be a podcaster. So here I am,
Yes.
But,
that's all.
Hey, Richie, I mean, you mentioned being there for the Big West tournament, the game day for the quarterfinals, right? Probably preparing for a broadcast. Can you kind of just bring us back to that day or that morning and what happened?
Well, you know this as a guy who has covered many conference tournaments. It is much more than just showing up and working that day. I had 4 games that day. I was covering every men's game that day, and I had done that the previous year as well. It's intense, back to back to back to back games. So you better have 8 teams prepared for. And not just those 8 teams you're prepared for. You have all these things that you want to say on each team, and the tendencies of every team. But then you got to start thinking matchups between those 2 teams that are playing each other. And that's the fun part. You get to analyze, how is this matchup going to be on the court? How is this team going to play against this unique style of defense or vice versa? It was intense. But then showing up that day, that morning I knew because there was another conference tournament that had gotten, I think, canceled that morning of or the night before. And I knew going in, I even called the producer. I'm like, are we going to have a tournament? They're like, well, we don't know, so just come on in. And it's about an hour drive for me coming from California to Orange County. And halfway down, it got canceled. And I just called them and I said, look, or they called me and said, yep, it got canceled. I'm like, man. I said, well, I'm going to come down and say goodbye and help you guys tear everything down because it's the last time I'm going to see you until next year.
That's brutal, man. Well, Richie, we're recording this on Monday. Tentative plan right now is to have this come out on Wednesday, the first official day of the revamped college basketball season. It was originally supposed to start, I think, November 11th, if I'm not mistaken, maybe plus or minus a day there.
Yeah, a couple days there. Yeah.
Then it was reset to November 25th, and even now, I mean, we're seeing all these programs, 357 Division I college basketball programs come out with these patchwork schedules, one by one. Maybe a third haven't even put out their revised schedule at all yet. That would include Hawaii. Even these blue blood programs are having to delay, postpone, back out of these multi-team events. Just on this morning, there are a number of those kind of headlines happening. How are you keeping track of just the daily what's happening right now with all of this?
To be honest with you, I'm just not worrying about it. It's just we're in a world of chaos right now. We really don't know what's going to happen. I don't stress myself over it. I decided about a month and a half ago, doing work with ESPN, that there's a good chance I'm going to get very few games this year, and I'm not going to be upset about it. We had a Zoom, I want to say it was a week ago today, with all kinds of ESPN broadcasters on there, producers, and one of the big dogs over there at ESPN said, hey, don't continue hitting up your coordinating producer if you are, because he or she doesn't know what's going on. Everything is changing for us every 10 minutes. So just stay patient. When we know we can have games, we'll let you know. And everything seemed cool until the last couple of days. And now I'm looking at an email as we speak that just came in an hour ago with 8-9 games that have been canceled for starting on Wednesday, which is 2 days from now. So people have their flights prepared, their hotels. Some people have already gone to town to prepare for the game, wherever that city is, at Duke or wherever. And, it's all canceled now. So they're talking about at-home kits that they're going to be mailing to us for a lot of us that we can just call the games from our living rooms.
Wow.
But that's not going to be the same feel, that's for sure.
No, not at all. I mean, I know certain broadcasts have done from remote studio, right, in the past when necessary, instead of being on site. I mean, doing it from your from your living room would just, I guess, take that to the next phase of the logical conclusion of remote broadcasting, but still, wow. Yeah, I mean, some of the specific headlines, Richie, there have been, I think, 6 major conference head coaches that have tested COVID positive just in the last few days or weeks. I mean, you're talking like Rick Barnes, Tom Izzo, Jim Boeheim, Kermit Davis, Kyle Smith at Washington State. It's 40 teams or more have paused all their basketball activities. Ivy League's not playing at all. Big West women's side, Cal State Northridge decided they're not going to play at all for the 2021 season. And then you got Rick Pitino on Twitter. He's now at Iona College. He just put out the call to postpone the season until March and have quote unquote May Madness. I don't know if you saw his tweet, but that's what he did. I think maybe yesterday or something. So what do you think of that specific idea?
Well, it was thrown out there last year when March Madness got canceled. Everybody was like, canceled. Remember, COVID was brand new at the time, and dealing with it was unknown. We hadn't dealt with it yet. Canceled. Why can't we push it back a couple months? Maybe we can get things under control. Well, the experts didn't think that was possible, but I think Coach Pitino, putting that out there is a great thought. Like I said, I've told to many people, I think we're going to have a beginning of the season. I think we're going to have an end of a season. We will have a national championship in Division I men's basketball. Don't know what the middle of the season looks like. So I think what Coach Pitino is saying is, hey, let's push back the start of season, and we'll finish it up in May. I think probably what the NCAA is thinking is, let's just keep it as is. And if we have to push it back, we will. But there's a lot of programs and teams that are going to be okay to start playing right now. We don't need to push it all the way back. So it might just be an extended long season. I mean, what was the NBA season? Like 13 months? Yeah. 12 months, something like that. It might be something like that, but I don't think it'll quite be that long. I think May Madness is a great idea. I mean, what we saw last year, and they're expecting it to be really ugly this winter in areas where it's cold, which is most of the country. It might be ugly. COVID may be ugly. I think it's a serious, scary thing for just our citizens of our country and all across the world. But, we got to do it safe for the world. But at the same time, we want to continue playing sports. But it's going to be ugly. It wouldn't surprise me if May Madness happened. We'll just see what happens. I think we just can't stress about it. We got to let the experts decide what they're going to do, and we just got to cover it. That's kind of the mentality that I have taken now.
One thing, Richie, I think that looks pretty certain is that there will at least eventually be an NCAA tournament this year. I mean, the almighty dollar has its beck and call, right? And the NCAA requires the revenue it generates from the NCAA tournament with the lucrative TV contract and all that to, support itself, to, fund all its various, wings and operations. So I think you're right. I mean, it's just a matter of when and not if. I think that's fair to say. But in the meantime, like you said, the in between could be pretty messy, my friend.
Yeah.
I'm just like as a quick aside, like Auburn announced it's self-imposing a postseason ban. Bruce Pearl and Auburn. I think that was a repercussion of the FBI probe from a couple years ago. And I mean, do you think that was a tactical move because they're not expecting there to be much of a season at all, or did they just have to get that out of the way?
Well, I think everybody has a little motivation in their opinion. I mean, I bet you Coach Pitino may have said that because maybe his team's not very good this year. And, it wouldn't hurt to push back the season a little bit where he can prepare his brand new team that he's trying to rebuild. And then, Auburn, they got a really good recruit coming in next year. They have some outstanding players already on the roster. If this year doesn't count for anything from an eligibility standpoint, go ahead and slap that postseason ban on because This season doesn't count anyway. And then the NCAA, yeah, you're right. The almighty dollar. I mean, the NCAA brings in, like $380 million a year? And what people don't understand is the NCAA funds 99% of other sports. The NCAA tournament, the college men's basketball tournament funds 99% of the money the NCAA gives to these other sports for their championships and for their ability to function. So the NCAA can't lose out on that money again. So we all have motivation in what we want to have happen. And I think you're right on point about those things.
Richie, in the Big West, schedule-wise right now, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I mean, you've got some of the teams with a fairly robust 5 to 7 game non-conference schedule announced. It's like officially up on their website. Other teams have a few games. I think Irvine's kind of in the middle of that, range. And then you've got like Hawaii that has none of the revised schedule posted at the moment. Although I think Alcorn State lists a December 13 game at the Stanton Sheriff Center on their website. So, you got kind of the full range there just in the Big West. What do you think some of these, for talking Big West specifically, non-conference could look like?
I don't know. It's a mixed bag. California, where I think all of the Big West teams are in California except for Hawaii.
Except for Hawaii, yep.
Yeah. So California has done a pretty good job of closing things down, being one of the first states to do that. Hawaii has done a fantastic job of keeping the virus out of the island. Pretty good, right?
It's reasonably good, yeah. Steady. It's been steady.
So I think you might see more games from schools in California than you do in maybe other parts of the country, just because they feel safer based on the actions that they took early on. Now, the numbers might be higher in California because there's more people in California than most states. Maybe all states. I'm not sure which state's the most populated, but I don't know the answer.
California.
Is it? Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know the answer. I think the NCAA did a good thing in saying that these games don't count. Well, they count towards records, right? They count towards coaches' records and whatnot, but it doesn't count towards your eligibility if you play in any games. The Big West did a good job of saying, hey, if you have to miss games, at least in conference play, you won't make those games up. It's just, if it's because of COVID, you just won't make it up. So I think the real disadvantage is for Big West teams and other schools around the country are if you miss games, you're not preparing yourself for conference play, which is more than likely going to happen. And I think that's the big disadvantage. So I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that, it's unfortunate. And Hawaii has exceptional challenges compared to teams that are already here in California that can just bust to each other's school. Mm-hmm. You guys have some serious challenges where I'm not so sure how many games you're going to get. But I know the less games you get, the less prepared you are for conference. And conference is all that matters to most coaches.
Well, that now 20-game conference schedule for the Big West with the addition of Cal State, Bakersfield, and UC San Diego, although them being a transitional D1 member, but it's still a 20-game conference slate essentially, begins, I believe, on December 27th, Richie. So, there is a bit of a window, roughly a month for maybe some kind of, even for Hawaii, some kind of patchwork schedule, whether it's with the local D2s, teams like Hawaii Pacific, UH Hilo, Chaminade. We'll see what happens there. But taking COVID aside for just a little while here, Richie, let's say everything goes perfectly. What would be your outlook for the Big West as a conference this year? I mean, we had the media preseason poll come out, a week or two ago. UC Irvine, probably as expected, picked to win the league. They've won 5 of the last 7 Big West titles, regular season wise. And UC Santa Barbara had some first place votes there right behind them. UC Davis, with their freshman of the year, Ezra Mannion, coming back, was picked 3rd, and then Hawaii 4th. So what's your feeling in general of this, kind of all things being equal, COVID out of the equation, what that looks like right now?
It's hard for me to root's not the right word, but vote against UC Irvine. I mean, they've won the Big West regular season title 5 of the last 7 years. And one of those other years, they won the conference tournament. So I think UC Irvine always has the edge. Coach Russell Turner is an outstanding coach. UC Irvine's incredibly fortunate to still have him at their school. He's had opportunities and things didn't work out for various reasons. But, they've graduated 4 starters. UC Irvine has lost 4 starters that graduated and only 1 starter returning. Now, they do have probably the preseason player of the year, I believe, is Colin Velp, if I'm not mistaken, from UC Irvine.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that they selected, I believe. But, he was a first-teamer as a 6th man last year. He was the best 6th man as well, so he doesn't count as a starter, but, he's going to get starter minutes. He's going to play starter this year. So their front court, both Colin Velp at 6'9" and can really knock down threes, is sitting there next to Brad Green, who plays center down inside. They are really good inside, but they don't have, a ton of starters back. Or on the flip side, UC Santa Barbara, they got 4 starters returning. So even though UC Irvine was ranked, picked to win, because that's what they're used to doing, even years that we have this thought that no way UC Irvine is going to win this year, they win it. So media members said, let's pick them first, because they always prove us wrong, even when we don't think they're going to win. But UC Santa Barbara's been knocking on the door. Head coach has been there, I think, 3 years now, Joe Pasternak. He's turned it around. He's got 4 starters coming back, and on top of that, he has 3 transfers coming in. So we got a transfer from Pacific, one from Jacksonville down in Florida, and then an Oregon transfer via junior college. So he has talent. Now, can he put that talent together? Because when you bring in these transfers and combine them with guys that have been playing a lot of minutes, sometimes that doesn't go very well.
Be a little volatile.
He can do it, yeah. If he can do it, then he's a wizard. But I would say it's got to be a two-horse race. But I'm going to tell you this, Jim Les at UC Davis, his MO is to rebuild and then go and win another championship. That's what he does. He does it every few years. He's great at it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Jim Les, I mean, that's a guy that I very much learned to respect, covering the Hawaii basketball beat, as somebody who would really get the most, I think, out of his roster, even if it wasn't the most talented in the conference, or maybe even, somewhere in the middle of the pack talent-wise. They would always be competitive, no doubt about it.
High academic school like UC Davis, I mean, to bring in the talent he has, those guys have to have good grades. His pool of candidates to recruit is much smaller than most teams, and he finds a way to do more with less. He's an outstanding coach. Definitely.
And then you got some of the middle of the pack teams, Richie, maybe like Hawaii, maybe UC Riverside, showed some improvement last year. New head coach now, Mike Magpayo taking over there, as well as maybe teams like Long Beach could be somewhere in the middle on paper. Cal State Northridge lost a lot. I heard you guys on the Big West pregame show talking about, maybe it was your broadcast buddy Trent Rush talking how they might be a surprise team in the conference.
Right.
So what do you kind of see maybe some of the company Hawaii might have on paper right now?
Well, Hawaii was that next team that I was going to talk about. UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, I think, are at the head of the class. UC Davis is probably right there behind them, but Hawaii is not far off. And I know I'm looking at the media poll results, but these were my thoughts anyway. The great thing, Eran Ganat has done a great job, in my opinion, of stabilizing the program. I know he had a lot of talent when he came in, the year they won a game in the NCAA tournament. But let's not forget that the previous coaching staff did some illegal recruiting activity to maybe get some of those players. And what I appreciate from Eran Ganat is it seems like he is above board. He does things the right way. His schemes, offensively and defensively, give teams problems year in and year out. And it's just unfortunate that they lost 2 guys to transfer. The way the NCAA is working now, it's like everybody's transferring. It's like the cool thing to do now. But losing Drew Buggs was a major hit. And you can't really blame the coaching staff for that. It's just incredibly unfortunate. At the same time, they probably want Drew to be happy. They want what's best for him, but they also want him in a Rainbow Warriors uniform if possible. But then also Dawson Carper transferring to Missouri State. That's another huge loss. So Hawaii losing 4 starters, Eddie Stansberry and Zigmar Raimo being the other 2, it's a huge loss. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Samuda Avea to really, be that team's lone starter that comes back. And he's been there with the program the entire time. I believe he's a local guy too, right? He's from the state.
He is. Yep, grew up on the North Shore.
He's got a lot of pressure on him. But look, everybody around the league highly respects Coach Ganat, and they know no matter what their roster looks like, his schemes offensively and defensively are some of the best in the league.
Yeah, they will have probably the most overhauled roster from one season to the next in Eran Ganat's now 6 years, going into his 6th year at Manoa. And you're talking about guys. You said Samuta Avea, he's going to have to shoulder a lot, I think, in my opinion. And you do have a couple of D1 transfers. I mean, you got Kazdan Jardine from Utah Valley, who definitely could have some promise there. James John Marie from San Diego, as well as Noel Coleman from San Diego. So they could be leaning on some of those D1 transfers who were all eligible right away. And another kid from junior college, Jovan McClanahan, could have an outsized role in the backcourt. That's, as you alluded to, Richie, I mean, losing Drew Buggs is a major hit. I mean, he was a true team leader, especially the last 2 years. I'm really curious to see how they will kind of, if not replicate, then, get creative with what they lost in that spot, because as we know, I mean, point guard sets the tone for your team. And if that guy's an experienced team leading point guard, that's a lot to replace. So I'll be definitely curious to see how they go about doing that.
Yeah. You got that 6'6" guard coming in too, right? Is it Beion Riley?
Beyond Riley, yeah, he's going to be a true freshman, but I think he's got some ball handling prowess, and as you 6'6", that's nothing to sneeze at in the backcourt, especially in the Big West. It's not the biggest conference out there as far as its guards go. So, kid like him and Bawali Bales from Australia, there's potential, I think, for a lot of these guys to make a name for themselves in the early going, because it is truly a clean slate, a blank canvas for them to show what they can do. So, are there any other dark horse candidates in the Big West, Richie, that you see from those teams that haven't been really mentioned yet?
You mentioned UC Riverside with the coaching change, Mike McPayo. He's got two really good post players that are only good if you have good guards. I learned that when I was a head coach. I had a great post, probably the best post in the league, and it wasn't very good in the point guard spot, so we struggled. But we'll see how he can do in his first season. It's an adjustment being a head coach for the first time, but he's got some horses. Long Beach State just practiced in their arena for the first time last week. The city of Long Beach, I think, wasn't allowing it, or maybe it was the president. I'm not sure, but they couldn't get in there, so it's a little behind. Here's my dark horse: CSU Bakersfield.
Oh, interesting.
CSU Bakersfield. I think nobody knows anything about them, right?
I don't.
Exactly. So it's kind of like when you have a brand new quarterback in the NFL. Just look at RG3. Remember when RG3 joined the Redskins and he was unbelievable his first year? Second year, everybody knew how to play against him, how to defend, and how to keep RG3 in check. Now, he got hurt a lot, so that's part of it, but he wasn't such a surprise. Well, a team like CSU Bakersfield that's coming into the league as a team that likes to get up and down. They want to press you. They want to play fast. I think that, we're in for a treat watching CSU Bakersfield. I think they're going to bring a sense of excitement to the league that we don't really have right now. And they got an incredibly experienced coach, but they got 4 starters returning on that roster, I believe. And they got a great player in Taze Moore Sr., who I think is the player to watch off their roster. Now, another guy named DeMonte Buckingham. So they have excellent guards/forwards that can all handle the ball. I just think they're going to be really fun to watch. Nobody really knows much about them unless you play them in non-conference. And I just think that if you have a niche like that, if you have an offense or a defense that teams only prepare for in your league twice a year, the 2 times they play you, but never else, you got yourself a niche and you have a way to beat teams. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish in the top half of the league.
What kind of noise do you think UC San Diego could make it as their first year as a transitional D1? I know they got a lot of punch back from I think a team that was rated and ranked in the top 4 in the D2 ranks last year, something like that. Maybe number 3 in the country, if memory serves, and possibly I think they're Player of the Year coming into the Big West.
Tyrell Roberts.
What kind of noise do you think those guys could make?
Well, I again, another program with an excellent coach. I mean, they've done a great job over there, won a lot of games in Division II. Coaching is coaching. You just got to have the horses in the barn to be competitive with that coaching. So, no question that they have a winning culture. I don't know if they've had a losing season in 5-10 years. I have to do some research on that, but they've been really, really good. I mean, this past season, they were 30-1. They were the number 1 seed going into the Division II tournament. Good chance they would have won the national championship. They're no slouches. Now, they have a great, great player in Tyrell Roberts Jr. If he plays, and I've heard whispers and I've heard rumors, but you never know what to believe. If he's in uniform this year, UC San Diego, I think, will be a team that might play spoiler towards season's end. Tyrell Roberts is a guy that can play and compete on any Division I roster in the Big West. But do I think that they're going to win a ton of games? Probably not. They're probably going to be under 500. But I think as the season goes on, great coaches and great teams get better as the season progresses. If you play a team in January and then you play them again in late February, early March, second time in the conference, and they're not improved, well, that's a sign of bad coaching, or maybe you've had some serious injuries to your roster or something. But as a team improves throughout the season, that's a good sign, and this coaching staff will do that. I just think UC San Diego, even though they can't win I mean, they can't even go to the conference tournament for 4 years, right? They're in that
Right.
purgatory,
Yep.
transitional time. But I just think they can play spoiler. Like, let's suppose it's, it's UC Irvine and UC Davis down the stretch, and it comes down to a couple games and who's going to win the regular season. I can see UC San Diego knocking off one of those teams down the stretch and surprising some people. So those are my two dark horses because they're brand new to the league.
All right. Well, Richie, as I mentioned, I think right off the top, you've done a lot of Big West games, Mountain West, West Coast Conference, just kind of taking the tour of the western half of the U.S. You started that whole run of being an analyst, being a college basketball broadcaster, I believe in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And that almost was right when the University of Hawaii came into the Big West Conference, so maybe a year removed. But it's been fun to watch you and Trent Rush do your broadcast together, basically on all the mainland Big West sites. Unfortunately, I don't think you guys have done a game out here at the Sound Sheriff Center yet. Maybe check it off the bucket list someday. But when you think back to that time, those early Big West Productions days, and just getting your broadcast legs under you, finding your voice, thinking back to those humble beginnings, what is that kind of what strikes you now, or what stands out to you now, 7-8 years removed?
Just from the beginning to the end, like from my standpoint or from the league standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, you finding your footing there with those Big West Productions crews, because I think it was just starting as a thing at that time, right?
Yeah, for me personally, it was a godsend, man. I mean, it's unbelievable just from, how this is being in the media world. I mean, there's a lot of people that are capable of doing jobs, especially maybe in the broadcasting side of things. It's just one person's got to give them a chance. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a subjective industry that if if 95 people hate you, but that one person loves you, and that person makes decisions, you got a job. And that's, for me, when I came out here, I came from North Carolina, where I was a year removed from coaching. I did some radio, and I wanted to get in broadcasting. And I'm like, I'm in LA, let's try this. And I begged people, and I gave up. It was early December, and then Andrew Leahy, who was the producer at that time, who created the whole Big West production truck, and he's big time responsible for all that. He worked together with Steve Chen. He called me and gave me the opportunity, and it was awesome. And so now that him giving me the opportunity to do analyst games for the Big West allowed more people to see me and give me more opportunity. So you talk about getting broadcasting legs. I mean, Trent and I have basically grown up together in this industry, but I'm like 15, 20 years older than him, but we're like brothers. And, he's killing it now, working with the the LA Angels. They change their name every 3 years. I can't keep up. But it's just fun to see. We've seen the Big West grow in popularity a lot because the TV trucks have helped that. We've given more exposure a little bit. But at the same time, it's cool to see it go up and down with, it used to be a very guard-heavy league. Now we're going to this season, and we got all these great post players to watch in all these different teams. So it's just neat to see. And then a lot of people with the production truck, they've moved on to bigger and better things and working for, in Bristol, Connecticut for ESPN or the Oklahoma City Thunder and different things like that. It's pretty cool to see.
Of course, me not traveling to those Big West games until conference tournament time as the beat writer at the Star Advertiser, I was relying on those Big West Productions broadcasts to, cover those games remotely in a lot of cases. Social media updates and the breaking news and all that stuff. I'd be watching you guys, and I think, if memory serves, it was a game at the Matadome at Cal State Northridge. I don't know if it was the first game for you and Trent as a team together. It had to be one of the first games, at least. It was the first time I think I saw you guys. And I'm like, who the heck are these guys? And man, it was humble beginnings, but just to see the production just kind of continue to grow and improve, and you guys finding your voice and working off each other so well. And that takes me to the next thing I wanted to ask you, Richie, which is, you've truly developed this fun-loving, entertaining, irreverent style to not only your calls of the games, but you do these comedic bits alongside as part of the broadcast, as part of the pregame. A lot of times you'll get into the student sections of some of these Mountain West schools. I think Air Force, Nevada, Colorado State, you like work your way in there, Utah State, goof around with the students. You've done crowd surfing. You've done like 90s mullet wig night. You've
You
done
remember that one?
like ugly sweater night at Utah State.
Yeah.
It's pretty hilarious. And I just kind of was curious, like, how did that come about? Like, is this just an extension of your personality? Like, where did this come from?
That's you're putting a smile on my face because this stuff is making me laugh. It's fun. I let me back up and tell you. I mean, first of all, not everybody that's watching a college basketball game doesn't necessarily like college basketball or like basketball. So if you can do something to keep the audience engaged, well, they might stick around and watch the game some more. So ESPN likes that. It helps their ratings, especially West Coast games when most of the country's asleep. It's prime time for you. It's 9 o'clock out here, but on the East Coast it's midnight. And so that's where most of the population is. So just so you understand, I was a walk-on in college, and it's amazing. I was a senior year walk-on. I wasn't a good player. I was probably a solid Division II player, but I walked on as a senior. So I had 3 years of college to goof off. And I was in a college fraternity, and my fraternity would do the most ridiculous student section get-ups like every other game. And I remember one time I was on national TV because I had this like basketball outfit from like the 1970s, like the shorts. It was like a middle school basketball uniform, and the shorts were like halfway up your thigh. And we thought it was so cool. I made ESPN, and I never thought one day I'd be calling games on ESPN, acting like a goofball in the same student sections. But I just think for me, it's just fun. I don't know. If I wasn't in coaching, I'd probably be in comedy. I just enjoy it. It's fun. I like to engage people, and I think it makes it more fun for the players or the students in the student section too.
No doubt about it, man. It's I had a good time, in preparation for talking to you, going back because I had seen, just consuming college basketball, some of those late night games, seeing you on the call and seeing some of those antics and just kind of sitting back on my couch and laughing. I had a good time going back and viewing some of those one after the next. It's quite a collection you've compiled, my friend.
Thanks, man.
If anyone's curious, go to Richie has his own website. Is it RichieSchueler.com? And there's like a compilation of almost all of them. It's pretty awesome.
I actually had there was a guy who just put together a video for me with a lot of that stuff that you're talking about. And I'm deciding if I want to put it out there or not. But now you might have motivated me because if you're enjoying it, then everybody will enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. I can't. I don't know who wouldn't. I mean, come on. If you can't enjoy that, you take yourself way too seriously.
Exactly. We got to have a little fun, man. My philosophy always is when I'm doing these games, if we ain't having fun, why are we doing it? Like, if we're not going to have a little comedy and have a good time, then why are we sitting here being so serious about college basketball? Let's have fun. Let's have a good time.
All right, now there's one I just remembered that really made me laugh, and I want to say it was a couple years ago. It was for a Big West game. It might have also been at the Matadome, either that or Cal State Fullerton. Whatever pregame thing you filmed was you just like losing your mind, like you were furious about something and like storming off and like slamming the arena door. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
It was Valentine's Day this past year. That was Valentine's. The last 3 seasons we've done a Valentine's Day bit. And the bit is always that I'm like this kind of like a player, and I'm asking all these ladies to be my Valentine. And then like Courtney Sweet or Trent Rush bust me. There's always like this joke to it, right? We don't use the word player, but you get the mentality. But this past year, I didn't have a Valentine. And so I was angry because I didn't have a Valentine on Valentine's Day. And they had me reach into a cooler and take out this bunny chocolate bunny and smash it over my knee.
That's right.
And we only had one shot to do it, one shot. And we practiced it without it. But when we recorded, it was amazing because the parts and the chocolate pieces went everywhere. It was like a rain of chocolate. And then they had me take this bunny out of this girl's arms and kick it across the Matadome. That was my favorite part.
That was great.
Yeah, they're just fun bits that we do.
Perfect. Richie, I know, like we said, I don't think you've been on a call because, that Big West Productions truck, it roves from one Big West site to the next over there in California. It's not like it can drive out here to the University of Hawaii for a game. If and when you get to call a game at the Stan Sheriff Center, maybe it could be a Diamond Head Classic game on ESPN one of these days, something along those lines. What would you want to do as like your antic or your bit for being here in Hawaii doing a game at the Sheriff?
So when I think of the Stan Sheriff Center, I think of my old buddy Jamie Smith. Remember Jamie Smith that was on the coaching staff?
Everyone remembers Jamie Smith.
Yes.
Team
And
Knights.
so, I knew Jamie when we were coaching. We were both coaching in North Carolina, and then didn't see each other for years, and bumped into him when he was at Hawaii. And he's like, "I know you," and I'm like, "I know you too." And here we are. We reconnected and became buddies, and we did a little feature on him about the time he did the stuff in the student section with the minion glasses, which I think you told me it didn't go very well because it's the same color as Long Beach colors, the game opponent you were playing that day.
Yep. Unfortunate timing on that one.
Superhero nights. I've seen all the footage, but it's almost impossible to know exactly what I would do if it's going to be something like the Diamond Head Classic, because it's not going to be just strictly people from Hawaii. It's going to be people from all over the place. So that one would be hard. But if it was something in Hawaii like a Hawaii Rainbow Warriors game, I would definitely have to find something Hawaii related. I'd probably do some hula dancing or something.
Have you surfed before?
I tried to surf once. No, not very well. I've crowd surfed, but not in the water. No.
You have, yes. Well, I'm just saying that could be a possibility for you to reenact or bring back if and when it came to that.
You don't think hula dancing would go very well?
That actually might be. I mean, just thematically, it might go with some of the stuff you've done previously. So that could work. It could work.
That's funny, man.
Well, Richie, I know you got to get on with your duties and responsibilities here. I guess I got one last question for you. Still on the University of Hawaii basketball team, as we said, they're picked 4th this year. They've been kind of a 8-8 mode. There was one year where they were 9-7 in the last few years here, but more or less a 500 team in the Big West, which coming off that NCAA tournament breakthrough year has kind of been a little bit of a contrast. So they've really settled into this mode. As we said, this year they had a lot of turnover, some D1 transfers, some clear talent infused into the program, which I think has maybe been something they've lacked compared to, say, a UC Irvine or UC Santa Barbara over the last few years. In your opinion, Richie, your analysis, what you've seen, what would it take for Hawaii to crack into that regular mode of contention of the Big West a la an Irvine, based on what they have, what their schemes are? As you said, Coach Gannat has some great schemes that opponents have to prepare for.
Yeah, it's really hard to answer. I mean, I think when you look at Hawaii's talent across the board every season, I would think they're probably in the top 4 of the conference, top 5 every year, which is the upper
top half.
Of the
Yeah, that right around there, I would say is fair.
And I think, honestly, Hawaii is beautiful. We all know that. You live there, so it's whatever. It's home. But most people love going to Hawaii on vacation. I don't know if a lot of people want to go there and be away from their families for 9 months out of the year. And that's where I think it's hard to recruit to Hawaii in that sense. Like, I think for a lot of people, like, think about somebody coming from Florida or Ohio or, Rhode Island, the eastern half of the United States. Do they really not want to have a chance for their mom and dad to see them play live? Do they really not want to be able to go home for Thanksgiving on a short break like that? That's where I think it becomes a recruiting disadvantage in some ways, unfortunately, because some parents are like, no, you need to go somewhere 3 hours away, not an 8-hour flight away. And I think that's where I think the coaching staffs have a difficult time, because I'm sure they're recruiting all the same guys, but they're not always getting a yes answer because it's less convenient for families to see them. And some kids get homesick, and some kids want to be in the limelight. They want to be on Sports Center all the time and that kind of thing. So sadly, I think that plays a major part, and I'm not sure coaching staff can do anything about that. They've had great players, and Drew Buggs is a major loss. I think Drew Buggs, maybe a top 3 player in the league if he stays. That's your chance to shine. This is their chance this year, and Drew decided to make a decision. And you can't blame him, but it's completely it's very disappointing for everybody involved with the Big West, because we all wanted to see him play. I don't know if that's the answer you wanted, but it's the answer.
Richie, I can't let it end on that kind of depressing note. I gotta bring it back up for one moment here. Who are maybe a couple guys in the Big West that are not name guys yet? Maybe a couple up and comers here that you think people could at least pay attention to or keep a on the radar, an eye out for?
Yeah, I think who I said earlier for CSU Bakersfield, those two guys, Taze and DeMonte Buckingham. Nobody really knows anything about them. Another guy, some other guys that aren't on the list. I think you got to look at UC Davis. Elijah Pepper is a player that plays kind of that guard spot, maybe sometimes slides over a little bit. But, I mean, he's solid. He'll be a double-digit scorer this year for UC Davis. I mean, he'll be important for them. Caleb Fuller is another guy that I think who had a great end of the year, was shooting lights out at the end of the season for UC Davis. I think he's going to be huge for them. We already talked about Hawaii quite a bit and UC San Diego. Long Beach State had lost a huge player. Their 6'10" guy that went to USC, but they've got some players. Chance Hunter, Romel Manzel, if I'm saying his name properly, Michael Carter III. These are some good players. But, I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, I think UC Riverside has some guys, too, that's going to be pretty good. George Wilbon and Dominic Pickett and things that aren't on the preseason list. But, yeah, we have some talent in the league, and only so many of them can get recognized as all-conference players in the beginning of the year.
Well, Richie Schueler, thanks so much for making some of your time available for that conversation about the Big West, about Hawaii, college basketball in general. It's a lot to talk about. It's going to be a lot more to digest and see what happens, even probably by this time Wednesday when it's supposed to start up. So who knows what's going to happen, but thanks so much, and best of luck calling whatever games you get, whether it's on site or in your living room.
You're very welcome, and I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate you bringing more attention to whole Big West basketball and, of course, Hawaii basketball. And, man, I hope to see you on some sidelines more here soon, man.
All right, Richie. Take care.
All right, you too, brother. Take care.